Hi, so welcome to the Tuesday edition of Juan's World, and as a special surprise I have my son with me, Beja, and we're going to talk about some anthropological issues. So you can say hi. The most important issue, the issue that we're going to discuss today, is cultural relativism, which is the sort of academic opposite of ethnocentrism. And it's a little bit squirrely because it doesn't quite match up to what you might think. The normal, let's see, old-fashioned way of thinking about these two issues, the way I was taught, is that ethnocentrism is wrong and cultural relativism is right. But that's not the whole story, right? So let's start with ethnocentrism, right? Ethnocentrism technically means that you are centered on the way you ethnically think, right? So you think, give me an example. I don't know.
Eating beef is fine.
Hmm?
Eating beef is fine.
Eating beef is fine, okay, yeah. Or eating pork is fine, right? And some people say, no, that's not true. Eating beef is horrible. Eating pork is horrible. I'll give you another example. You probably have noticed around my apartment these sticky traps. Have you seen them?
Mm-hmm.
They're to trap a mouse. And the reason they are there is because my landlord is a Buddhist and he doesn't like to kill things. So, and I've had a mouse in the apartment for like several months. And what I would do, and I told the manager of the apartment, it's like, I want some mouse poison, which I used to have, and it was given to me by the manager as a little pink pills, and so I said, can I have some poison? And she said, the landlord is Buddhist, he doesn't like to kill animals. Okay. So we have these traps, and so when the mouse steps on the trap, it gets caught. And what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to take the trap outside and pick the mouse off the trap and let it go. But I don't. I just, when the mouse hits the trap, I just throw it away. But that's a good example, all right, of ethnocentrism, like. The opposite is cultural relativism. So cultural, like, you are from this culture, you do this thing, and it works for you. So even though I don't like it, ethnocentrically, I don't like it, but it works for you, so I'm going to accept it. And the classic example is female genital mutilation. which occurs in a number of West African cultures. Do you know others?
Mm-mm.
So in those cultures, it's sometimes called female circumcision. It involves the fairly painful destruction of the clitoris in young girls, right?
Yeah, it can do.
Or I mean, some version of that. I mean, like it might involve getting rid of the skin surrounding the clitoris and so forth. But it has an effect, obviously, on a woman's sexual activity. And what no anthropologist ever wants to admit is that there is a male version called circumcision, right, where a man is surgically altered. So, number one question: should we tolerate genital mutilation? Yes or no? I understand it's not a yes and no question. But in terms of cultural relativism, should we just turn a blind eye or just accept the fact that in some cultures, like when you get old and you can't hunt with the group, or you can't migrate with the group, they just leave you to die? Is that okay?
I don't know of any particular groups where that happens.
Well, okay. Well, I mean that may be like a urban myth, right? But what about some of the circumpolar region people who migrate and leave their elders behind? Is that just not true?
I don't know. I'm not a specialist in those areas, unfortunately.
Yeah, but that's one of the classic examples. Like you see this camera panning away from the old guys who are sitting on the ice floe, and the young people are moving away. What about the Ten Commandments? You know, in Louisiana right now, there's a law that says they have to be posted in a large font in every public school, and the Bible has to be taught in every classroom. Yes or no? I mean, because when we actually look at the Ten Commandments, there are several problems. Number one, they're different in different books of the Bible. Right? There's one set in Leviticus, there's another set in Deuteronomy. But what do you think? Should we, number one, should we be monotheists? You will have no other gods before me.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's a question of should. Like, first of all, like who's the we that we're talking about? Also,
You're right, but it's an absolute, right? It says, "You shall," "you shall." Lo, in Hebrew, it says, "Don't do this." Law is the first word in all of the commandments. Don't kill, don't steal, don't don't lie to people when you're under oath, right? And so, but if you join the army, is it okay to kill?
So, I mean, in that case, is it okay? I mean, it's justified in terms of the jobs that you're required to do, but it is extremely psychologically harmful and
Right.
difficult.
Right. And we have like numerous veterans with PTSD because they've killed people. And I mean, typically what happens is that the military treats the, let's put it in quotes, enemy as really bad, like because they wear a turban or or something like that. So we're okay to shoot them. We're not okay to shoot people that look like us. Or are we? I mean, like, what if somebody comes at me with a knife? Is it okay for me to shoot him?
Again, there's a question of whether or not it's justified, but and whether whether it's legally acceptable. But
who makes those laws?
So again, I think that in theory, people make, like societies individually make their own decisions about what cases are going to be acceptable or not. But I think in more general terms, that certain things, including murder, are always something that humans are going to be fundamentally opposed to doing. Not just humans, but all, like, I think the majority of species. And
well, wait a minute. What? I mean, a lioness going out to get some food for the pride. She's not thinking about morality.
no, but a lioness is also not deliberately hunting and killing other lions or lionesses. Generally speaking, that doesn't happen.
Okay, so it's species specific. Like, in other words, I can kill a lion, it's okay. If I kill you, it's not okay.
Yeah, I think that there is I think, again, there's just like a fundamental evolutionary prohibition against murder. It's not evolutionary beneficial.
But wait a minute. Now, I'll agree, the Hebrew says, you shall not murder. It doesn't say you shall not kill. That's the English translation, and it's wrong. Because it's not a prohibition against killing, it's a prohibition against intentionally killing somebody of your own species for dubious reasons, right? I mean, like, so what we're agreeing upon, I hope, is that there's a difference between legality and morality. Like it might be legal to kill somebody, but it's not necessarily moral.
Sure, but I also personally think that in the case of murder, and potentially in other cases as well, but I think I personally think that in the case of murder, humans have a vast propensity to make justifications for things in places where they don't need to, and I think that murder happens to be one of them.
Okay, what about coveting your neighbor's wife? Or your neighbor's ox? I mean, that's, the Ten Commandments say you shouldn't do that. Well, you look at a pretty woman, you say, "Oh, she's pretty." Wrong. Or, I mean, let's just be neutral. You look at your neighbor's ox and you say, "Oh, I'm hungry." So what?
So again, I think that's a case where it's not necessarily as clear cut because, again, it depends on things like property rights and
motive, I would think, right? I mean, you look at your neighbor's ox and you say, "Yeah, I'm hungry, but I'm not going to do anything about it." Right?
that's potentially true, yeah.
Or, I look at my neighbor's wife and say, "She's pretty, but I'm not going to do anything about it." Mm-hmm. Is it wrong to just look at her and admire her?
I mean, again, that's a case where it's not as clear cut.
So let's think about those 10 commandments. I mean, where are they clear cut? Which commandment is like absolute? Like, yeah, okay, you can't do that. You
Murder.
Can't. Well, murder, okay.
Murder, for sure.
But I mean, certainly you are translating the word correctly, because it's not "thou shalt not kill," it's "thou shalt not murder." In the original Hebrew. I mean, on a personal basis, I would say that. Well, what would I say? I don't care about adultery, but if I were to care about it, I wouldn't distinguish between male and female. That it's just as wrong for a woman to commit adultery as for a man to commit adultery. But that's a moral absolute. So, I mean, are you saying that adultery is a moral absolute?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, fine.
I don't think. I mean, I think that stealing also counts in similar ways.
Stealing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because if you have a notion of stealing, then you have a notion of property. And property rights, and so stealing implies a violation of property rights, which are again determined by a particular society in a similar way that the rights and regulations regarding marriage and acts involving married people are.
Okay. I mean, I'm okay with that. But because that means that if you live in a culture which doesn't have a concept of personal property, you can't have a concept of stealing. Like, I make a spear, and it's in my hut, and you take it, but I don't have a concept of that being my personal property, then it's okay for you to take it, right?
Sure.
But if we have a concept of personal property, and I've made it, and I say this is mine, and you take it, then you've committed a moral or a legal or both error.
Right.
Okay. I don't actually know of any society that doesn't have some sense of property. Do you?
No. Again, there are claims where it's sort of like theoretically it's supposed to be totally equal, but I don't think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are societies which used to be called hunters and gatherers. They're now normally called foragers, and some of them, like for example the I don't know that I can pronounce it, Kong of the Kalahari, that they claim do not have any notion of personal property. I think that's probably not true, right?
Yeah, I think, again, I'm not a specialist in that area of the world, but from what I've read, there is, I mean, it's very obvious. If you catch an animal during a hunt, it's obvious who put in the effort
Right.
to be able to bring it in.
But in that sense, I mean, because we can talk about this endlessly. Like you strike down a springbok and bring it home. There's a sense that it's yours, right?
Well, there's a sense that you put in a certain amount of effort, and so therefore you have a certain amount of right to be able to claim some portion of it. But in foraging societies like the ones you've mentioned, have a equally or perhaps stronger social obligation to redistribute
Right.
what you've gained from the hunt.
Well, because
Or from
you got a springbok today, you may come home with none tomorrow, and you still are hungry today and tomorrow, and you need to share it with the group today because you have that, but tomorrow, when you don't have anything, you still need to eat.
Sure. In addition to again, from what I know, in particular societies which have this moral obligation, there's a high value placed on equality amongst all people.
And sharing. Now, one of the things that anthropologists can't agree upon is whether sharing is natural to humans or whether it's imposed by culture. Right? Is it built into our DNA, or do we have to enforce it? Now, my opinion is that we have to enforce it, that it doesn't come naturally.
I think that people are naturally inclined to, as social animals, I think we're naturally inclined to.
Okay, well let's just we'll end here, but let's just contemplate that. Are we social animals? I mean, are we like ants and bees, or are we like lions?
Well, we are social animals in that.
Well, I mean, like the standard anthropological answer is that going all the way back to our ancestors, like before Homo, our previous ancestors were Australopithecines, that ever since then women have had painful childbirths, and therefore they have benefited from having a strong group of women helping them in their childbirth. Not necessarily doing anything, I mean, not like midwives or something like that, but just being around, just saying, okay, you're doing good, keep it up, push. Yeah, I know it's painful, we've all been through it, but just keep doing it. And that it was like female cooperation that was the original basis of culture, because they stuck together, and if they hadn't, then a lot of women would have died in childbirth.
So I know that hypothesis. What it doesn't account for is why men live
Right.
to an equally old age as women, even after.
Well, I mean, again, there's this hypothesis that men like sex, and they like sex in the morning, but women don't, and so they go off and hunt, and they kill something, you know, on the understanding that when they bring home, food, they'll get sex.
Yeah, that's a ridiculous hypothesis.
Because
Because humans don't have an estrus, meaning we can have sex whenever we want. And
we can, but women also have the ability to deny sex to men.
well, as to men to women, it's a two-way street in that regard, or men to men, or women to women. It doesn't.
Right. Okay. So what do you think is the basis of human social behavior? I mean, you're claiming that humans are social animals, and I actually don't agree. So, like, what, in your opinion, makes them social animals?
Well, the fact that
They do.
we live in societies with
Okay.
groups of people. How exactly they work is one of the major goals of the research of sociology and anthropology.
Well, okay. I mean, like, so final question, I guess. Like, do cultures work?
I mean, cultures are dynamic, and there's
Yeah.
constantly they're constantly changing both within themselves and also between whatever you might be able to define as a cultural group. But
Okay, so I mean, we know empirically that all cultures define themselves as us, and then there's the other, right? There's I mean, however you want to define them, whether you want to define it by skin color, by language, by behavior, every single culture that we've ever encountered says, well, we do this and they don't. So there's us and them. That, I mean, but that's empirically. Like, what? So, and I'm just going to leave it as an open question. Why does that? Why do we do that? Why do we say, okay? Because what it comes down to is, it's not just we do this and they do that. It's also we do this and it's correct, and they do that and it's wrong. It's evil in some ways, and therefore we don't mind killing them, because they're other than us, and that's universal. Well, I mean, don't mean killing us is universal, but saying that they are wrong is universal. I mean, that's, we go back to the beginning. So ethnocentrism is universal, right? We are the, we do things the good way, and they don't. I mean, to me, the interesting issue is who they are and why we decide that they are not good, and so, because it could be anything, right? It could be height, for example. We don't like them because they're really tall, or they're really short, or their skin is the wrong color, or whatever. Which, I have to say, one of the things that interests me about Cambodia is that people here live side by side with people of all different skin colors. There's some people here who are really dark skinned, not as light as me, but kind of light, and they don't care. Don't care. So in that sense, I think that has to do with history, right? Like in the United States, having a light skin versus a dark skin has a lot to do with the history of the people who lived there. Here it doesn't matter. Although, again, just touch briefly, it matters in Japan, right? Skin color matters in Japan. I mean, women go to great lengths to avoid getting suntanned, right?
I mean, there are bleaching products and stuff like that, but
yeah, but they also wear, I mean, or they carry parasols, or if the sun's out and they don't have a parasol, they'll cover their skin somehow. I mean, that's what I saw when I was in Tokyo last. You know, they have a book or something, and they'll cover their face when the sun's out.
well, that happens sometimes, but like, there's not the same thing as skin color-based racism, like in the United States.
Well, understood, but they do bleach their skins.
Sure.
I mean, so it means something. It probably means a lot different, like because like in a lot of Asian countries, having a dark skin is associated with being low class. Like you're out in the sun all day, working.
Yeah, in some cases, I guess that might be true. I'm not entirely sure on that.
Well, what about? I mean, this is stretching it a little bit further away. A lot of Japanese people have operations to make their eyes rounder, right? Why is that? It's to be more like Westerners.
That was the common hypothesis for a long time, but I think that, again, having read some more recent work about Japanese aesthetics, I think that there's an equally good case to be made that it's not a question of how similar or different Japanese people look to Euro-American peoples, but what kinds of things they value within their aesthetic system, and
well, does that go back to like anime and manga?
yes.
I mean, like all the heroes have round eyes. Okay. All right. Well, I'll finish off this amusing topic. When I first moved here, I had a certain kind of hypothesis about being barang. Barang means in Khmer, it means being a foreigner. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go out with a mask on, right? So you can't see, you can't see my whiskers, you can't see my face, you can't see anything. Are they going to treat me differently because they can't see my face? And the simple answer is, yeah, they did. and I asked one of my teachers why that is, and she said, because you have hairy skin. Like foreigners are hairy, and I mean, I think that's probably true in Japan and China too, right? That generally speaking, men don't have hair, or very light hair. And you have more hair than I do, but she called me a monkey. Like that, you don't, mask. And I mean, because the other thing about a mask that is obvious is that I have blue eyes. Like, and Asians don't have blue eyes. Like, so all they got to do is look at my eyes and they say, he's a foreigner. Anyway, we'll call it quits there. Please like, please subscribe, and we will see you on Friday. Well, we won't see you. I will see you on Friday. Badger is going back to China.